Hi, I'm Lambros Paxos, and this is a summative blog about MBA 622 organizational behavior taught by Dr. Stephen Edelson. We discussed a lot during our course, and there were many topics in which involved my practical knowledge and applicability towards my profession. We began organizational behavior with the history. We moved on to perception, personalities, intelligence, groups, meetings, conflict. There were a lot of subjects discussed. I felt that all of them complemented my well-being of knowledge very well towards management because all of them are very important to know. First, when we discussed history, it's important to know where we came from. We had our agrarian, we had our industrial, and we have our modern. There were several different stages within each one of them where scientific theory took place, where technology took place, where economic factors took place. It was very important to see where we came from to understand the development of organizational behavior theories over time. The next subject we discussed was perception. They're the building blocks to understanding emotional intelligence, in my opinion. Perception is what each person individually perceives. So I think it's important for emotional intelligence to understand how people perceive, knowledge and how people receive certain scenarios. I think that's very important in the building blocks of managing, and specifically for me, I want to become upper management eventually one day. Sooner than later would be better, but we all understand that there's got to be a learning process involved. So during this learning process, emotional intelligence is very important to me because I think that's a foundation for organizational behavior. You got to understand how people perceive and scenarios and situations. You also have to understand their personalities. I think personality is another key issue. It was discussed multiple times in class. Some people believe that you should manage the same way across the board. I personally believe that you need to manage people differently. You need to manage their personality types. Where some people might want to be praised more, where other people might want to be, left alone and just have their work forwarded on to the next person. So it's important to understand personalities. Now, there was the issue where the employee would come along and say, well, why is my boss treating so-and-so differently than me? So you might have some conflict there, but I believe that all goes back to emotional intelligence, the perception of how one perceives things. So I think that if you can help manage personalities and manage from within those teams or even an organization as a whole, you can better tailor your managing style. Along with that, we also discussed intelligence. Intelligence is very important to understand. It's no longer thought of being intelligent as being one of the smartest people on the earth because we have a lot of different types of intelligence that we've learned. We have logical intelligence. We have musical intelligence. We have a lot of different intelligences that are being perceived nowadays. So one is to not be thought of as intelligent just because they're a rocket scientist. We also have very intelligent people that can play the piano very well. So isn't that a certain level of intelligence? One cannot be greater than the other. So to understand your team's intelligence or even your organization's intelligence will better help tailor that managing style. We also discussed motivation. Motivation does not equal performance. Only skill equals performance. I think that's very true. I can teach my 5-year-old pre-calculus or calculus, for the next year. He's 5 years old. He doesn't have that skill set yet. There's a bunch of stuff in the middle that has to happen first before he can get that skill to perform calculus. Now that's an example as an adolescent skill, but even with the employees I deal with daily, I cannot expect any of them, if they're newly brought on into the organization, to learn the dynamics of our business after 2 weeks. It's not possible. So if I motivate them to learn it, that does not mean that they're going to perform and actually know it within that amount of time. So there has to be a skill set there that equals the performance. We also talked about what motivates our employees. Is it money? Is it purpose? Is it engagement, acceptance, praising? For me personally, it's challenge. I love being challenged. I love walking in the morning and getting an email or having my boss come over to me saying, hey, I need you to figure this out. because A, it breaks up my daily routine, and B, I love using my mind. I love understanding the dynamics of business. I love growing into our business. I think it suits me very well. I think it suits the team very well, because whatever I learn in that challenge, I pass on to the 2 other team members that are underneath me. You know, in regards to motivation, we also learn Maslow's theory and Herzberg's theory of satisfaction. Maslow's theory has self-actualization on the top. I think those are both very important in understanding where people are on that pyramid, because it can help make you guide your team a little bit better to understand their wants and needs. Now, hopefully everybody on the team is on that top level of the pyramid with self-actualization, because that means that they're going to be hopefully performing at their, you know, most output. We also discussed process theory. Process theory is the case where you might have a group of employees. One employee might know that he makes significantly less than the other employee. Therefore, he puts this on an equilibrium scale, and he weighs how he can get this equilibrium back into equality. So either he's going to start working a lot harder and perform a lot better to increase his wage, or he might start taking more breaks. That way he can justify his hourly rate. We also discussed communication. Communication is a big deal. There's miscommunication all the time, because what I meant to say maybe didn't come out as I meant to say it, as I meant to mean it. Okay? Also, communication in regards to the medium that you use. So within a company, are you using email? Are you using a messenger service? Are you using a memo across, you know, the entire organization? Are you using Skype or some other type of medium? Are you using intranet type communication where, you know, employees have to go to log on? Is it appropriate for the message that you want to send? For instance, we had an example in class where somebody's CFO sent down the financial results in a formal email, but included an emoticon where he stated that they beat their performance expectations. Maybe that was a little bit of a miscommunication. You would expect that he would be happy. Why did he have to include the emoticon? Maybe it helped make it more informal when it should have been probably a more formal message. We also have informal communication, such as through the grapevine. A lot of rumors get spread throughout the organization from middle level management sometimes, or even just employees at the bottom line. Knowing how to manage that grapevine communication is very important, especially if you're delegating it to the team, whether it's intentional and unintentional. We also have groups and meetings discussions, and we discussed the involvement of groups within a meeting and the individuals within those meetings. I believe meetings are necessary as long as they're used the right way. Sometimes I've been involved in meetings where my involvement was not needed, and it honestly was a waste of time. I got no value add out of it, and I didn't value add to the meeting. So people have to understand the type of group that they're trying to form when they start these meetings. Do we have the right stakeholders? I think that is very well utilized at Diebold. I've only been involved in a couple of those, and I've been involved in enough meetings, to say the least. And I find that most of the time I do have a value-added sense of communication within those groups. So is the group, cohesive? Is there conflict? Conflict was another topic. If you have too much conflict, such as a devil's advocate, you're not going to get anything accomplished because they don't have any reasoning to maybe back up why they're disagreeing with you. They're probably just disagreeing to disagree. So you have to have that fit. You have to have that buy-in. But also, you don't want the group to be too agreeable, because then are you really getting anything accomplished if you're just agreeing to the leader of that meeting? So you have to have that perfect equilibrium of conflict with reasoning behind the conflict. That way the group can move forward as a whole. We also discussed groupthink, and that involved a demonstration that I liked a lot, which was the marshmallow construction. That involved MBAs, they involved CEOs, architects, kindergartners. That was very interesting to learn, because I have to find myself as that jump-in approach instead of having this long phase of planning. There's a lot of wasted time. You're never going to know every situation when you go into a project. So why not just plan a little bit and then just start the thing? There's too much wanting to do this organization and this group leader, and maybe even too much cohesiveness, where everybody is trying to, do this one thing. Maybe everybody should just agree that we should discuss it for a short amount of time and then go with it, and we learn as we go. That's typically my approach. Also, we learn about teams where we're dependent on all parts. If one team member holds information back because maybe they have job security by holding that information back, maybe they're not going to be as valuable to the team. You need information when you form teams. Also, there's a difference between teams and groups. A team may be a football team. A group may be the offense or the defense or the special teams. You also have leaders within groups. So there might be a leader of the offense and a leader of the defense and a leader of those special teams. So teams as a whole and groups within teams can differ a lot. I enjoyed this class a lot. I believe it fits into my organizational behavioral aspect very well. It was interesting to learn that a lot of the applied management skills that I enforce and enact and display every day are actual theories. I think that was probably one of the most interesting aspects of this course, is that I've already been doing some of these things. Whether they were good or bad is up to the person perceiving whether it's a good management style. So therefore, I think I learned a lot from this class. I think it was very beneficial to my knowledge as a future manager. I always try to develop and change my management style. Management has to change on a daily, weekly, monthly, yearly basis because your masses are always changing as well. You're not always going to communicate to the same group. For instance, if you outsource part of your business to India, you're not going to communicate to them on day one as you did a day before that group went into succession. So therefore, our management styles are always adapting and always evolving. I enjoyed this class a lot, and I hope you have a great holiday season.